Welcome. My name is Anthony Mills and I'm the Head of School of Architecture and Built Environment at Deakin University, Australia. In this presentation, we're going to talk about a number of things. What do we know about the impact of COVID-19 on university students? What do we know about younger and older generations of workers? What can industry expect in the workplace? And can universities develop resilience in students? So what is said about Gen Y workers? Gen Y workers are less tolerant, apparently, of work environments that don't reflect their own personal values, opinions, or feelings towards change. Gen Y workers are also looking for a good work-life balance, flexible working hours, and strong diversity. Some of you may remember the celebrity demographer Bernard Salt, who was particularly cutting about Gen Y's complaints about housing affordability. He claimed that if younger people stopped ordering avocado on toast at expensive cafes, then they would be able to afford a home in a large Australian city. So, does this mean that Gen Y have unrealistic expectations in a modern world? OK Boomer. For those that haven't caught on to the phrase OK Boomer, it's a kind of eye-roll put-down of younger people about older people's nagging on topics ranging from housing to climate change to personal resilience. And in fact, when I ran this presentation past my 26-year-old son, a Gen Y, he said, "Dad, we're actually coping much better than you boomers think we are anyway." Perhaps he's right. Their resilience. What do we know about the COVID impacts on students? In new research, which has only come out in the last month or so, Arizona State University provides a report on a survey that they did earlier in the year. They surveyed 1,500 students using an instrument designed to recover the causal effects of the pandemic on students' current and future expectations. Some interesting results came out. As a result of COVID-19, 13% of students said that they had delayed graduation. 40% said they'd lost a job, an internship or a job offer. And 29% expect to earn less at the age of 35 as a direct result of this pandemic. Moreover, the other effects impacted on various socioeconomic groupings within the students. The more affluent students spent 5 hours extra a week on study compared to their pre-COVID days. However, the less well-off students were spending up to 6 hours less on average as a result of COVID. Resilience has been researched since the 1970s, largely within psychology. Early resilience research examined children who appeared to be invulnerable to adverse life situations. Over time, the term invulnerable was replaced by the term resilience. And as resilience research has developed, it has focused on the mechanisms by which it operates. Resilience has shown to be evident in times of transition, much like now, often where there's a great deal of stress. Many authors have argued the importance of resilience in higher education contexts when considering the enduring demands placed upon students entering university, namely increases in cognitive complexity, comprehension of uncomfortable and unfamiliar ideas, and the questioning of accepted attitudes and behaviours. Resilience has been defined as the ability to bounce back from adversity and get on with life, including the examination of the ability to bounce back from earlier misfortunes, which can highlight and adapt in changing circumstances at various stages of life. It may be viewed as a personality factor that protects against life's adversities and negative emotions by applying resourceful adaptation, flexibility, inventiveness. In essence, resilience can be defined as the capacity developed in students and graduates in bouncing back from a negative experience. It's a capacity that is highly valued by employers, or so they told us, and many believe that it's an essential factor to the success of a career. It might be helpful to consider another aspect, and that's what comes up in the development framework. They look at three particular aspects that have an impact on the development of resilience. Firstly, navigating the world of work, which includes managing career and work-life balance, understanding worker rights, roles, and work protocols. Interacting with others includes communicating for work, connecting and working with others, and recognising and utilising diverse perspectives. And finally, getting the work done, which includes planning and organising, making decisions, identifying and solving problems, innovating, and working in a digital world. The research question. There was a perception by industry that graduates commence work without resilience skills being adequately developed in their courses. So the question really is, can the resilience expected by employers actually be taught in a university environment? The case study involved 3 stages. Firstly, a desk audit and mapping of the tertiary courses in built environment. This was carried out across 9 universities offering construction management programs in Australia. Suffice to say that while there were no subjects that specifically addressed resilience training, there were parts of subjects that addressed training around industry issues and challenges, and we felt that was useful. Secondly, interviews were conducted with university teaching staff. Interviews were conducted at 8 universities with 24 staff and 28 students. And finally, the research team developed a series of case studies in collaboration with industry employees, which was designed to explore the resilience capacity in students. Resilience is not a definitive capability, but a dynamic one, which involves ways of thinking and acting, and this assumes that it can be learnt and developed. The research team created a series of interventions or cases which followed a framework comprising 4 aspects. Firstly, antecedents, which are the situations that lead to personal dilemmas. These were the experiences of students before the intervention. Secondly, protective factors are those opportunities that mitigate the risk of negative outcomes and which assist the student make sense of the intervention. Risk factors are those characteristics that lead to negative outcomes which impact on the student's ability to cope or deal with the intervention. And finally, consequences or resources developed after the experience had occurred, which are usually based upon reflection by the student after the intervention. Each case study follows those same four characteristics. This first case study involves a dispute over cleaning up the site to improve health and safety. In this scenario, a building safety inspector noted small offcuts of steel, which occurred as a result of the facade being installed, were causing a safety risk and needed to be cleaned up as the construction progressed. However, this did not occur, creating a safety risk for all workers on the site. This prompted the labour force to enlist the assistance of the union, who called for the construction work to stop completely. The students were asked to appreciate that their job as a construction manager included keeping the work on track, but also maintaining a safe workplace. Students were asked to reflect on how they would handle the dispute and get the ban lifted. This case had no right or wrong answer. Instead, the scenario was designed to make students think about the various responses and actions that could be taken and the potential outcome of each. The second case involves a conflict of interest regarding a person who requested to work for cash outside of their contract of employment. The students were asked to reflect on why and how conflicts of interest can lead to negative outcomes. In addition, they were guided to examine their personal values, ethics, and obligations to an employer. Risk factors identified included lack of awareness of potential conflicts, including the perception of others. Protective factors included instruction in codes of conduct and ethics standards. The case was introduced to students by analysing codes of ethics from professional associations. Through this exercise, it was anticipated that resilience would be developed by navigating the issues involved. The consequences of the case was to develop in students new knowledge of codes of conduct, as well as an understanding of how frequently conflicts of interest can occur. Once again, resilience was developed when the students explored the issues and gained new knowledge about workplace ethics and learned how to survive and grow through the experience. The third case related to a private consultant building certifier who had dual responsibilities. The first responsibility was to advise whether the building was constructed within the requirements of the permit. However, the second responsibility was to inform the builder of any breaches or non-compliance with the permit. In this case, a group of neighbours living nearby complained to the municipality that the building impacted on their views, even though the permit required the building not to exceed a certain height limit. Risk factors identified in the exercise included a lack of awareness by students of the tolerances involved in assessing the building's compliance with standard, in this case a few millimetres, understanding the motivations of neighbouring residents, and official municipal processes for dealing with resident complaints. The protective factors included an appreciation that there may be options around meeting the spirit of the permit, particularly when the height is very close to tolerance, in this case a few millimetres. Other protective factors were an understanding about who the building certifier had responsibility to and who needed to be informed. The outcome of the scenario was a greater understanding by students of the mechanisms available to the municipality to adjudicate disputes with residents. Resilience was developed in the students through understanding the roles and responsibilities of industry players in this case study. And as previously mentioned, resilience is also developed when students understand how to address the situation and personally grow through the experience. The outcome of teaching interventions have not yet been measured in students. So it's not clear whether students actually develop resilience as a result of working through these case studies. Again, the study has not been tested on graduates in the real world because it'll take a number of years to fully verify that that has been successful in real live workplace environments. However, the case studies that were developed were based on the experiences of graduates who were working in industry as professionals, and they had reflected on their own experience in developing resilience. As a result, the researchers in this study have confidence that the interventions that we have put in place will ultimately be successful in developing resilience in construction students. It's fair to say that the whole world has changed due to COVID-19, and it's never been a better time to have resilience. Upon graduation from university, many students lose access to support structures such as peers, academic mentoring, etc. This may lead to tension, stress, and failure to perform effectively in their future workplaces, especially when those workplaces themselves are very stressful. The construction sector is a uniquely stressful environment where the development of resilience is imperative for success. Whilst there is an awareness of the need for resilience training within construction courses, there is little in the way of explicit and structured content currently included in the curricula. This research attempts to address that gap. This study suggests that there's plenty of opportunity to include resilience training through activities such as role-playing and peer discussions. And finally, this research adds value to construction curricula by developing best practice interventions that are designed to form resilience in university students.